Namaste. This is David Hawthorne at astroview.com. Today is the 8th of January 2013. The following is the Vedic astrology reading for Michael Schumacher. I am using the 3rd of January 1969 at 1:43 p.m. in Herth, Deutschland. Now, using Vedic astrology from India and the sidereal zodiac, this gives the second sign of the zodiac, Taurus, as the rising sign. This is the first house, and the sign of Taurus is here. Second house, the sign of Gemini with Moon. Third house, Cancer. Fourth house, Leo. Fifth house, Virgo, with Jupiter at 12 degrees and Ketu, the southern node of the Moon, at 10 degrees in Virgo in the fifth house. Mars in the sixth house of Libra at 9 degrees. This is the seventh house of Scorpio, eighth house of Sagittarius with Sun in Sagittarius. And we have Mercury in Capricorn in the ninth house. We have Venus in Aquarius in the 10th house. And Rahu, the northern node of the Moon, and Saturn in the 11th house in the sign of Pisces. And the 12th house is Aries. So this is always the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th houses of life. Now the 5 degrees, almost 6 degrees, is not an arbitrary number. This is the ascendant or rising sign. But this number becomes known as most effective point. And any planet close to the rising sign degree has a tremendous impact. And you'll see this in a minute on a couple of these planets. We can say that Moon in the second house of wealth and status gives wealth and status because Moon rules the third house of self-initiatives and courage and entrepreneurial success. And Moon is also the public. Jupiter in the house of children gives male children and gives him a very benevolent mind. So he can even study education and law and publishing, teaching, consulting. He does have Ketu, the southern node of the Moon, in the fifth house of mind, which gives him enlightened thinking. Now, Mars down here in the sixth house is not ideal. It rules the 12th house of hospitals. And Mars rules Aries, which rules the brain. And this is in the house, the sixth house. Sixth house is Ari. This is a Dustan Bhava, inauspicious house. So this causes weakness, makes him vulnerable to the 12th house issues such as hospitalization or imprisonment, separations. Mars is in a weak position, so it does not protect the brain. And this is the house of health issues as well. And this rules the muscular parts of the body, Mars. Sun in Sagittarius is considered quite favorable for being a benevolent person, a person of knowledge. Many people will come to him for advice, Sun in Sagittarius. And he's an optimist. He sees the glass as half full, not half empty. Gives wisdom, morality, divine grace. But this is the 8th bhava, the 8th house, and this is called Randra. And this is the house of vulnerability and transformations and accidents and death-like experiences. And Sun rules his 4th house, which is also transportation or conveyances. So even skiing is a type of conveyance, or motorcycles, or horses, or cars, boats, trains, planes. So Sun is in the house of accidents. Mercury in Capricorn in the 9th house, this gives some very good ability for communications and self-confidence. Notice that Mercury's at 5 degrees, the rising sign is 5 degrees. So Mercury is blessing this house of good fortune, and it aspects opposite, so it's blessing the house of entrepreneurial success. It does rule this 5th house of children and education and mind. So this is considered very well-placed Mercury. It's far enough away from the sun that it's not really combust, and it's in a good, strong house. Now, Venus in the 10th house of career gives some affluence and entertainment value and competition as well. But the problem is that Venus rules this 6th house. And so this is not ideal. So Venus for this chart, even though he's Taurus, and people think that Taurus rising sign, which is ruled by Venus, so they think Venus is a favorable planet. But the Multracone sign takes precedence with the proper way of reading charts. So that means the Multracone sign for Venus is Libra, which falls in the 6th house of accidents, conflict, mental tension, health issues. But what's happening is that Venus at 5 degrees is close to the rising sign. So it afflicts the 10th house of career and its aspect into the 4th house of property, home life, and conveyances. So there can be this problem here. This is not an ideal situation. Plus, Venus is afflicting this house, and it rules this. I mean, it's in this house. So it becomes weak because it's in a house that's afflicted. So it doesn't protect the health, and it can cause some accidents and problems connected with professional life. We come up here to the 11th house of income. We have Rahu, gives enormous income. And we have Saturn ruling the 10th house of career, also giving enormous income. And it's also, Saturn is working class person, so he gets money from working class persons who follow him and follow his ability. As most of you know, Michael Schumacher is a 7-time Formula One world champion. He's widely regarded as one of the greatest F1 drivers of all time. But on December 29th, 2013, while skiing with his son in the French Alps, he fell and hit his head on a rock. So this is not good. He's in a medically induced coma, traumatic brain injury. He's undergone neurosurgery, so he's had a cerebral contusion. Let's look at the timing of events here. He was actually born in a Rahu main period. Then he went at the age of 4, he went into 16 years of Jupiter. It's in the house of education. Then he's went into 19 years of Saturn. Saturn's in the house of gains, and it rules his house of career. And Venus is also transportation, and it's in his house of career. And Venus is the planet of entertainment and affluence. Now what happened is that about 6 years ago, he went into his Mercury main period, which is quite favorable for him. It's absolutely a benefic planet. But the sub-period, which is the operating planet, see, back in July 2011 and running until May 2014, he's in a Venus sub-period. And Venus is not a favorable planet for Taurus rising sign because Libra falls in the 6th house. And this Venus is afflicting the 10th house of career and the 4th house of transportation and home life. And it's afflicting Leo, which is ruled by the sun, in the house of accidents. So this isn't good. Plus we see that Jupiter rules this 8th house of Sagittarius, and Jupiter is afflicted by Ketu. It's only 2 degrees from Ketu, and it's only 2 degrees from Rahu. So that can cause some grave mishaps, misfortunes, and accidents. See, Jupiter rules the 8th house of death-like experiences, accidents, transformations, and vulnerability. So I think the problem is that this Venus sub-period is operating until May 18th. Then he goes into Sun for a year, which is in the 8th house of death-like experience. So I don't think this is very good for him. So these are the main points from the chart. So Taurus rising sign, Moon in Gemini makes him very social. He was born, look at Sun and Moon are opposite within 3 degrees. So that means he's born exactly during a full moon. Full moon person get a lot of public recognition. Everybody says, look, there's a full moon. So he is very bright. Moon ruling the 3rd house of entrepreneurial success in the house of wealth and status. So he gets wealth and status through his own self-efforts and through the public and public favor. Longevity is ruled by Saturn and by the 8th ruler. So Saturn here is past 25 degrees, is considered old age. And we would say that Rahu and Ketu are within 5 degrees of that most effective point. So if you add 5 to this, you got 1058, and Ketu's at 1035. So technically Rahu and Ketu do have a wide aspect in the houses they occupy and the houses they aspect. And Rahu and Ketu can cause an eclipse. So we would say that Saturn becomes weak. He needs a blue sapphire gemstone to strengthen Saturn. And Jupiter, ruling the 8th house of longevity, is on the eclipse of Rahu and Ketu. Now it's not 100%, it's not 80%, but there's a 60% affliction to Jupiter by both Rahu and Ketu. That's not good. So that causes trouble. And that can cause trouble for his son. So loss of father. If the son loses his father, or his father's severely injured for the rest of his life, then what we have is the son suffers. His child suffers. So I don't think this is good. I think this is it's a very delicate situation. And of course, all of our prayers are with this great man. Okay, so stay in touch. If you have any questions, you can contact me at astroview.com. The email is david@astroview.com. Namaste.